Maybe it's just me, but accountability feels like one of those words that has become so overhyped and overused lately that it's been stripped and devoid of any meaning at this point. Nearly every single time I hear people talking about accountability and holding people accountable, what it actually sounds like they want is retribution and punishment, which is far from what accountability actually is and what in many instances accountability would look like in order for it to be impactful or tangible in the context which people are using it in, especially on the online digital space when it comes to influencers and content creators. When it comes to influencers and content creators, who actually gets to hold them accountable? Aloha, beautiful humans. Welcome to my channel if you are new here. Welcome back if we've been locked in. My name is Sasha, and today we are talking about accountability culture, more specifically, what people actually mean when they say they want to hold someone accountable. I actually started thinking about this when I came across a video of a content creator and influencer, I'm Official M. She posted a video not too long ago on TikTok basically saying, or asking rather, just kind of putting it out there, whether content creators and influencers should be talking about one another on social media, more specifically using another influencer or content creator situation to make money for their channel.
I'm asking this because I kind of touched on this in my YouTube video once I found out that B-Loves made a video about me. I just feel like, I understand that as creators, everybody wants to speak on the hot topic. Everybody wants to get their little coin off or whatever is going on. But I feel like we should still have respect for each other's situations, because at the end of the day, we all know that being vulnerable on social media takes a lot of strength. And because we each know, all of us know what that feels like. All of us know what it feels like to have 100,000 people giving their opinion, negative and positive. I feel like, dang, like, why would you say something negative when you'll be in my shoes, or you have been in my shoes? You get what I'm saying? I feel like we should just be more, loving. Like, we all know what this feels like. It's a lot of pressure. It takes a lot of courage and a lot of guts. And for you to go through one situation and turn around and put somebody else through the ringer, knowing it might be you again in 2 months, why do we do that?
As someone who is a content creator and who has been on these streets, who has showed up in this capacity for a few years now, it's something that I've thought about and gone back and forth with, because I am a content creator, right? My intention is to never spill tea or to gossip. Like, I understand that there is an avenue and there is a demand for that type of content, and I'm not putting down the content creators and influencers who do engage in that type of content and put out that type of content. I know just for me, it feels kind of icky to be doing it to another content creator or influencer, because I myself have been on the receiving end of being dragged on the internet, not necessarily by other content creators or influencers, but how I use social media is my rule of thumb with everything that I post, with comments that I leave, with how I engage with and interact with people. My general rule of thumb has always been, if I would not say it to your face, I'm not gonna type it online, I'm not gonna put it online, I'm not gonna put it in the video, I'm not gonna leave a comment about it. That's just how I operate. And so when I show up on social media, when I post these videos, when I post anything, I have always taken the approach of content creation and posting on the internet to communicating with people like you're on my couch and we're just chilling and we're just having a conversation. So those are the standards that I hold myself to. However, that's just for me. I don't really hold anybody else to that standard, because I also understand that everybody approaches content creation and influencing from a different perspective, and what works for me and with what resonates with my audience may not necessarily work for a content creator and influencer, and they may not be taking that approach, especially if that's not their niche, right? If your niche is gossip and tea pages, you're kind of maybe going to have some strong opinions or say things that you may not necessarily say to somebody's face, but the integrity of the matter for me is just how I operate. That's just a level of integrity that I like to operate with when I post on social media. If I'm not gonna say it to your face, I'm not going to get on social media and say it. It is what it is. I also take this stance because I know as a content creator, and I have experienced it firsthand, what it is like to be on the receiving end of a lot of hate, vitriol, abuse, hostility, and how it can impact you. And I never want my content to create that feeling for somebody else. Like, no, we are not responsible for how anybody chooses to manage their mental health. However, I do think a lot of us need to be more accountable to how we comment, how we use social media, and how we communicate. I know how challenging it can be. Like I said, I just last week was on the receiving end of being dragged on social media for sharing a relatively benign opinion. And it wasn't the first time that it happened. It's not gonna be the last time it's happened. The video I posted on Caitlin Clark just 3 or 4 weeks ago, it wound up on some side of the internet. Also the black fatigue video that I did, it ended up on some weird corner of the internet, and the comments that I've gotten on that video have been deeply alarming. But last week when I got dragged on social media, it actually both times this year that I've been dragged and abused on social media, it actually started on TikTok, then it made its way over to Instagram. And in both instances, they never tagged me in the video that they downloaded and stripped from my TikTok account, posted it on Instagram. And you know how people on Instagram have no sense of humor. Instagram is legit at this moment the worst social media platform. Well, it's debatable which is worse, TikTok or Instagram, but they're bad for different reasons. But anyway, so I didn't even realize that they took my video, stripped it of any context, manipulated it a little bit, posted it on their channel, and they didn't tag me in either of these videos. I didn't even realize I was getting dragged on Instagram both times until somebody saw the video, and I looked at our followers on both of these profiles, and our followers kind of matched, they kind of overlap. So it was only going to be a matter of time before somebody who was following me was also following this channel, was like, oh, hey, that's Sasha. Oh, wait a minute, that's Sasha. And I'm reading these comments and people are dragging the F out of her. But anyway, so both times people got into the comments and tagged me, and they were like, hey, Sasha, I don't know if you've seen this video, but they kind of dragging you. And I'm like, thank you. So I have been on the receiving end of being dragged on social media. It is not a pleasant feeling. And so that also kind of dictates how I approach content creation, because I do not want to be a part of any hive mind. I don't want to be a part of any mob. I do not want to be cruel to anybody needlessly. I don't want to contribute to that energy. This is why I also disagree so vehemently when people say things like, oh,
well, you show up on social media, you have a page, you're a content creator, you're an influencer. So this is what you sign up for when you post content.
That could not be further from the truth. Nobody signs up for abuse and hate and vitriol, especially from people who claim to hate you, yet they keep up with every single move that you make and are aware of every single thing that you do. And so it's like, I've never understood the concept or idea of hate following. Like, if I dislike someone, I remove them completely out of my social media space, my digital space. I make it so I cannot see their content. I haven't seen a piece of Kardashian content in years. I think in part is also because I stopped following the Shade Room. But I don't generally receive content that I don't want to see. And it's because I tailor my For You page so when I say my algorithm is so sophisticated now, I don't come across a lot of content that I do not want to see. That confuses me how it got here, unless it's something that's going super viral and my mutuals or people who are following me, unless they're engaging with that content, then I'm like, oh, okay, I understand why this content is being served to me. But for the most part, this is why I don't understand hate following, because it's like anything that I hate, I remove it from my space and I don't pay any mind to it. So I digress. All of this to say, as a content creator and influencer, or content creator more specifically, content creator, not necessarily influencer, but just in the space of how I show up on social media, because I have been on the receiving end of hate and vitriol and abuse, I'm extremely mindful of what I post, how I talk about people, and what I say. If I talk about people, if and when I'm talking about a specific person, I'm very careful about how I tailor that conversation. And if I wouldn't say it to them, that if I wouldn't say it to their face, if they were sitting right here next to me, I'm not gonna sit here and look in a camera and say it. Like, that's just how I hold myself accountable. So this brings me back to this word accountable and this idea of accountability. Who holds influencers and content creators accountable? When I looked in the comment section of her video, a lot of people kind of understood what she was saying. The vast majority of her audience, however, is not content creators or influencers. So she's talking to her audience. She's not necessarily talking to her community. Her community is other content creators and influencers, but her followers, her community of followers and people who engage or who were engaging with that video, they're not generally content creators or influencers. And so some people, I kept on seeing this comment, of accountability and, oh, you just don't want people to hold you accountable because she's going through a situation with her mom. Her mom's name is Big Juan. Anyway, she just graduated. Her mom didn't go to the graduation. They had a falling out. And so there has been a lot of just commentary about what is going on between her and her mother. And there are other content creators and influencers as well as just, the average TikToker sharing their, yapping and posting their opinion. There have been a lot of people sharing their opinions about her situation with her mom, and people have been on her mom's side. And some people have taken her side, some people have taken their mom's side. The only people who really know what's going on in that situation are her and her mom. But anyways, people who were taking her mom's side were saying in the comments, oh, you don't want anybody to hold you accountable. That's a problem with influencers. That's a problem with content creators. Nobody can hold y'all accountable. Nobody can say anything to y'all. Nobody can check y'all. And it's like, let's pump the brakes real quick. Pump the brakes real quick. I am of the mindset, and if you've been on my channel before, I've talked about this before. I am of the mindset that you cannot hold somebody accountable that you are not in community with. We have created a fair amount of parasocial relationships on social media where people think that just because they are following you or they've supported you with a like, a click, a view, a share, a follow, a repost, whatever, that automatically makes them entitled to your time, your energy, for you to basically tap dance for them. A lot of people have got it in their minds that influencers and content creators owe them something because they are a part of their follower base. However, you are not in community with that person. A lot of people engage in very antisocial and weird behaviors online that if you engaged in those behaviors in real life, people would absolutely check you and be like, that is weird, what is going on? We have normalized a great deal of dysfunction on social media, and it is bleeding into how people engage in real life. As communities and in real life relationships and friendships are breaking down, we are entering, or we are actively in this loneliness epidemic, this friendship crisis. People are retreating more and more now, more than ever, to digital spaces, online spaces for community and friendship. And I think that is absolutely changing people's expectations of content creators and influencers, but also how people engage on the internet. I am an older millennial, and so much of my socialization came from in real life interactions before this social media thing was a thing. That is what informs the vast majority of my behavior online. And so for me, like I've always said, if I'm not going to say it to your face, I'm not going to say it online, because I come from a time and age and an era where if you said something to somebody and it was received very wrong, people basically got punched in the face a lot more. And I don't think enough people are getting punched in the face. A lot of people are not existing in a time where their weirdness and their antisocial behavior, their antagonistic behavior, their problematic commentary, thoughts, feelings, opinions, etc., they have not existed in a time, a day, and an age where that would be checked and corrected immediately in real life. And so that disconnect of what is acceptable in real life, because you have very little experience of real life, because so many people have been socialized into friendships and communities and relationships online, that it has really altered people's brains, and not just altered people's brains, but people's understanding of what is normal behavior and what is acceptable behavior. So when it comes to this idea of accountability, this may or may not be an unpopular opinion, probably an unpopular opinion. However, you cannot hold people accountable if you are not in community with them. And I'm sorry, but following a social media influencer or social media personality or a content creator does not necessarily make you in community with them. However, if you are wanting to hold a content creator or an influencer accountable, the best way you can do that, especially if you find their content harmful or something that they're saying is destructive, you can absolutely and should report them or block them or unfollow them or just stop engaging. It's as simple as that. If you want accountability, that is the best way you can get accountability when it comes to a content creator or an influencer. However, a lot of people do not want accountability. They want retribution. They want to punish social media influencers, content creators, and social media personalities. They want retribution for a perceived slight. A lot of people are walking around extremely angry. And then you also have people who were educated under the No Child Left Behind system of education where nuance, context, facts, and understandings are completely stripped away. People prioritize opinions over facts. And it is because we have spent so much time in the past 10 or 15 years basically giving everybody a platform to share every thought, feeling, and opinion that comes to mind with little to no fact checking going on. We have platformed opinions on the same level of facts. And right now I'm watching, Snowbay and I are watching Newsroom. It came out in, gosh, when did Newsroom come out? Hold on. Newsroom came out in 2012. I don't know what we were doing in 2012. Were we together in 2012? Yeah, we were together in 2012. Were we living together? We were living together. Did we have cable? I'm not sure what Snowbay and I were doing in 2012, but we missed Newsroom. But basically, we're catching up now and we're watching Newsroom, and something that the main character, Will McAvoy, that he's been talking about because he's a news anchor and he's just like realizing how much news media has created this environment where we have platformed people based off of their opinions. And as we've platformed people based off their opinions and given them leeway to share their opinions, no one is pushing back hard, but your opinions are not facts. And No Child Left Behind, George W. Bush must do time for No Child Left Behind. He must do time. I don't know how he hasn't been arrested yet. Like, somebody needs to draw up an arrest warrant. There needs to be a class action lawsuit for everybody who was educated under No Child Left Behind, because that system of education failed so many people, and we are seeing the effects of it in 4K in real time of how many people struggle to understand basic comprehension, basic nuance, context, critical listening, critical thinking. I remember being in the second grade, the first grade and the second grade, you had to show, actually all throughout elementary school, middle school, high school, even in college, you had to show your work. It wasn't enough to have an opinion. You had to support your opinions with facts. And even my English teacher in the fourth grade, she gave us this assignment and I put the answer. I was like, I know the answer, but she was like, no, why do you think the way that you think? What is supporting your thoughts? What is the context behind this thought? Context clues. A lot of people aren't being educated that way anymore. So they go through life, they go through this education system thinking their opinions are equivalent to facts, not understanding context and not understanding the fact that words mean things. And because words mean things, we're gonna get on an even playing field and define right now what accountability actually is. Accountability is the fact or condition of being accountable. Responsibility. Use it in a sentence, Sasha. Okay. Their lack of accountability has corroded public respect. Let's dial it back even further, because y'all know I'm a big words mean things person. So let's dial it back even further. Accountable is an adjective. It is of a person, organization, or institution required or expected to justify actions or decisions. Responsible, explicable, understandable. So when we use all of those words, we are operating based off of the same understanding of accountability. The way people talk about holding influencers and content creators accountable nowadays and social media personality, it is not accountable. You cannot gain accountability from a social media influencer, content creator, or public figure or personality in the ways in which people are talking about, because what people are talking about is retribution. What people are talking about is punishment. And I think that desire for retribution and punishment comes from a sense of anger that a lot of people are feeling nowadays, but that is greatly displaced. When we talk about accountability, there has to be a tangible act of how we can take responsibility. How can we make this right? So when you think about it that way, accountability is a two-way street. There was an action being done, there was somebody being harmed. How can that person in their accountability reduce the harm? What can they do in that moment to take accountability, to take responsibility, to reduce harm and atone for their actions in a manner that is acceptable to the person who was ultimately harmed by whatever behavior? Accountability is a two-way street. In order for someone to take accountability, they must first acknowledge that there was even a transgression that occurred. This is why I go back constantly to the fact that accountability, you cannot hold someone accountable that you are not in community with. And even to take it further, even if you are in community with someone, there has to be an acknowledgement on their behalf that there is something that was done wrong. If they don't even acknowledge that whatever you're saying or maintaining that they said or did was harmful, if they don't acknowledge that or feel the same way, accountability cannot take place. You know, there's this one-way exchange of energy that goes on when you engage online in a digital space on social media. And yes, it is a social media space. You know, we are liking each other, we're engaging with each other's content, we're following one another, you know, we have mutuals, we're in community with one another online. However, you do not, outside of whatever it is they are posting or that social media platform, you do not have access, one-on-one, tangible, in real life access to that person that you can touch and you can feel. Social media has done a great job of manipulating people into thinking they know a person or they have access to you based off of what they put on social media. We have created this great level of normalized dysfunction, but when you strip it down, there's a great amount of parasocial relationships that we see happen so often, where people build up a content creator, an influencer, or social media personality. You build them up only to tear them down, because now you feel they are accountable to you and everything they do, say, and post should be in service to you. There is this illusion that this person can be touched and can be that you are communicating with them directly. There's this illusion of access. But if you take away that social media platform, you lose all access to them. You cannot hold someone accountable that you do not have access to. And that access comes with community. You know, this one-way exchange of energy, this like deep vitriol and anger in the name of accountability that people are so insistent on engaging with and demanding online, it does not work in the real world. I very rarely see these calls for accountability in real life. They exist online. The vitriol and the energy, especially behind these calls for accountability, exists online because a lot of people seem to engage in ways online that do not work in real life. And not only would it not work in real life, I don't think a lot of people would even attempt it, because there is this group think that goes on online, this hive mentality where people are able to comfortably swarm people in numbers, you know, that mob mentality where they just dogpile on an influencer or content creator or a personality who is pissing them off or who has just done something or said something they feel now needs to be taken accountability for. You don't necessarily have those same strength in numbers in real life. It would require a lot of people actively one-on-one confronting someone in real life and having a conversation with them. And you're asking this from a generation of people who struggle to make eye contact. Like, what are we talking about here? Seriously, think about the ways in which people in the digital space, especially on TikTok, go about demanding accountability from people, harassing you, dogpiling you, leaving you multiple comments, people creating multiple videos about the same thing, offering their thoughts, feelings, and opinions about how they feel they were harmed by this relatively, a lot of the time, benign thing or benign offense that you can just block this person and call it a day. You know, think about that behavior. Is it normal? It's not okay. It's not normal. It's not okay. And it doesn't work in the real world. Like, think about engaging in that same behavior, in that same attempt for accountability, thinking you will get an apology from someone or you can hold them accountable and that they will atone for whatever because of how you are going about this. Think about engaging in that same behavior in real life from somebody you're trying to get an apology from or you feel like you were wronged from. And think about it for a second if you would get the same results in real life. Probably not. So why does it feel good? So why do it online? People are doing this online and engaging in this behavior because it feels good. It feels good to some people who need to have somebody to punch down on, to use somebody as their punching bag. Because like I said earlier, there is a lot of energy, negative energy in the air with everything that's going on in our current just cultural lexicon, our political world, the economy is trash. People are being asked to do more with so much less. There is all of this fear. There's all of this anxiety in the air. And a lot of people are not coping with it well. We are in a mental health crisis in this country. A lot of people don't have a group chat or a circle of friends they can go to, but they can hop on this digital space where they can anonymously take out their anger on someone, and it feels good to do that. There are so many reasons behind it that are justifiable why so many people feel angry about everything that's going on, but the anger is displaced and it's misplaced. I think so many people have stripped any level of humanity away from influencers and content creators and social media personalities, to where a lot of people have dehumanized content creators, influencers, social media personalities. Do not see them as real people, because you can engage in this behavior from behind a cloak of anonymity. That anonymity gives protection, and it makes a lot of people feel very bold to talk about others or talk to others in ways that they would never talk to people in real life. They would never. A lot of people are walking around just looking for, not necessarily looking for, but they have this energy, this 13th reason energy. And if you are just scrolling on social media and you see somebody who looks like they're living an amazing life and they're comfortable and they're happy and they don't have real problems, all it takes for that person is to do or say one wrong thing that triggers you. Now, all of a sudden, they're enemy number one on the internet, and everybody's calling for accountability, and they need to atone for this, that, and the third. And it's just like, just block them. Do you not understand? Like, I think people really underestimate the power of that not interested button on TikTok, but also the block. The block feature is my favorite feature. I block like at the very least 10 people a day. And then somebody told me, I found out that there is a limit on how many people you can block. And I'm like, what the hell? I feel like you should be able to block everyone. Like, I think it is bizarre. Every single month we got another video where at least once a quarter, people be like, oh, this content creator blocked me and I don't know why. Then it's a think piece and it's a conversation. I would be embarrassed to get on the internet and complain about a content creator or influencer who blocked me, because it's like, what did you do? What did you do to earn this blocking? It's always something. But yeah, more people should use the block feature, the not interested feature. If somebody is just getting to the point, getting you so riled up and irritated, block them. Block them. Stop engaging in content that you don't want to see, that's going to spark your cortisol levels, that's going to get your heart rate up, that's going to make you irritated and piss you off. Stop watching that content. It's not good for you. Y'all don't need to hold content creators, influencers, and social media personalities accountable to anything. You need to hold yourself accountable to what you allow in your space and how you are using your time and your energy. Because I always say this, your energy is currency. Your follow is currency. Who you engage with, especially in an era where followers net people a lot of money. What you are following, supporting, and engaging with, even if it is to leave a hateful comment, people are making money off of your hate. Rage bait, clickbait. People are making money off of your hatred, and they're going all the way to the bank while you are just sitting there, not better for that engagement, and you're not any less frustrated or irritated. Now you're sitting here pissed off at this content creator, influencer that you could have and should have blocked, but now you have engaged with their content in a hateful way. Your comment, your follow, you being there in that space, you engaging with them is currency. You are putting money in the pockets of people you hate, and y'all either don't know it or you don't care. The reason why I say there are people who genuinely don't know this, but there are people who don't care. And these people don't care because they are not looking for accountability. They're looking for someone to take their anger out on. And we are seeing an uptick in this behavior where people constantly use, instead of hitting the block button or just unfollowing, there is now an entire niche. I won't even say niche. There is just this entire normalized dysfunction of hate following and keeping up with influencers and content creators and social media personalities you hate. I couldn't tell you right now a social media personality I dislike, or influencer or content creator, because I probably could, but I couldn't tell you the last time I watched their content. I'm not here to hold them accountable just because we are co-influencers or co-content creators or co-social media personalities. No, block them and keep it moving. But y'all don't block them. because y'all want something there. That hive mind feels good. That mob mentality feels good. People do not want accountability. They want punishment. They want retribution, but you can't say that because that makes you look crazy. But I think we need to be more honest with that. I think for the rest of 2025, from here on out, whenever I see anybody asking for any level of accountability from a content creator, influencer, or social media personality, I'm gonna just be like, you crazy. Cause what? If you don't block them and call it a day, block them and call it a day. So in closing, what have we learned? We have learned that people do not want accountability. The word accountability, a lot of people, when you are using that word, you are using it incorrectly. What you mean is retribution. What you mean is humiliation, because that's what people want to do. They want retribution against content creators and influencers. They're unhappy with their own lives, or they are looking for someone to punch down on. They want to humiliate content creators, influencers, and social media personalities. Or maybe it's just not that deep. You know, hurt people hurt people. You're hurting, you're frustrated. You see somebody who you perceive is doing good or is the target of your frustration for that day. And because you're hurt and frustrated, now you leave them a negative comment in hopes of hurting them and creating that same level and passing on that level of hurt and frustration that you feel. You know, I think that's what we're also grappling with. A lot of people are hurt, a lot of people are angry, and they're not channeling their energy in ways that are productive. What a lot of people, however, in engaging in that behavior and calling it accountability, what a lot of people also don't want to talk about or fail to realize that accountability is also something that strengthens and builds community. It creates trust, it builds communities, it makes people stronger, and it brings people together. You know, how many times have you had a fight with someone, or you communicated with someone, hey, you did this or said this, and I didn't like that. And they're like, you know what? My bad. I take accountability for that. I apologize for that. How can we move forward? That brings y'all together. It makes your relationship stronger. You know, it creates tighter bonds. The ways in which people are going about seeking accountability, it doesn't reduce harm. It creates more discord, dysfunction, and chaos. And we need so much less of that in this world, in this time that we are living in right now. So if you are seeking accountability in a way that is dogpiling, in a way that is leaving hateful, vitriolic, and abusive comments, that's not strengthening any community. You are not asking for accountability at all. Accountability requires community, but because so many people, everybody wants the village, but they don't want to be villagers. And a lot of people, when you think about the fact that we are in a friendship crisis, people don't know how to be friends to people. People don't have friends. We are in a loneliness epidemic. People do not know how to maintain relationships in real life, and they are seeking those relationships online. But a lot of the way that people engage online is very dysfunctional, and it's not doing you any favors, especially if you take that dysfunctional behavior online and try to replicate it in the real world. It's not going to work, because a lot of digital behavior is very antisocial when it comes to this whole call for accountability. And if a lot of people engage in real life and show up in real life in a manner in which y'all show up online, I completely understand why so many communities are eroding and why so many people are struggling to maintain relationships and friendships. At the end of the day, the only way you can hold someone accountable online is to unfollow them, block them, and keep it moving. That's it. That's all. And if you want retribution, just say that. However, it is absolutely crazy. Influencers, content creators, and social media personalities, they're not your punching bags, and they are not responsible for whatever is causing you pain, harm, and frustration in real life. Direct your energy towards things that matter and that are going to get you to a better place and to desired results. That's it. That's all. Drop down in the comments. Let me know your thoughts. Don't forget to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and until next time, peace out.